Good afternoon. Welcome to this late Thursday afternoon edition of our Warrenton's finest fantasy football league week recap and preview. This is it, folks. We are headed into week 14, the final week of this regular season. Final week of the regular season, and there is a lot on the line. Excuse me, I just had to burp mid-sentence. That happens from time to time. Let's go through it. Let's go through the standings real quick. Where do things stand after last week's game? First place, the Wanakee Squirrel Salads. Now, Greg, I just want to point out, yes, you're in first place with a record of 10-3, but out of 12 teams, I just want to point out to the league, this is why fantasy, you can get angry, you can get apathetic, you can be jazzed and excited, but ultimately, at the end of the day, you should just not be able to sleep and have any confidence. Because, Greg, you're the first number one team, 10-3, with the 8th best scoring team in the league. 8 out of 12. 7 teams have scored higher points than you week over week, yet you have the lowest points scored against. So, folks, that's the key. It just comes down to who did I end up playing and did I get lucky? In fact, I was going through, I'll probably next week, I'll do a end of regular season full recap. I'll probably point out some fun nuggets, but this was a funny nugget. Michael, there was a week where you beat Dan 64-60, and that just made me laugh because like that 64 points scored, you shouldn't win a game, but you won that game. Anyway, enough about that. So Greg's in first place, 2 people tied in second, myself and Sean at 9-4. Coincidentally, the 2 highest scoring teams in the league. Next up is Mike Weiss at 8-5, and then we've got 2 teams at 7-6, Matt and Jason. Then we've got 2 teams that are coming on very strong towards the end of the season, maybe too little too late. Hannah and Carlos both at 6-7. Then we got Michael Cupp at 5-8, the Weasel and Dan at 4-9, and then Brandon bringing up the rear at 3-10. Although I think Brandon has the most points scored against and third lowest scoring, but one could argue shouldn't be in last place. But that's again just how it goes. So let's take a quick look at last week's scoreboard. What was big? Big was that Gone Fishin' did in fact beat Uncle Touchdown, broke Sean's 7-game win streak, beat him 175-112. Matt, I hope you didn't use up all your points before the playoffs started, but that may have. In fact, that actually did secure your playoff spot. You have clinched the 5th playoff spot, so that was a big one. What else was big? Hannah beat Mike to stay alive to try to make the playoffs. Jason lost, thus keeping Hannah alive, trying to make the playoffs. And Carlos won, which would have kept him alive, but a low amount of points scored on the season has effectively eliminated Carlos. You'd have to win. Jason would have to lose, Matt would have to lose, and you'd have to score over 200 points higher than they scored this week. So ESPN has deemed you eliminated. What else was big? I came back from behind and beat Brandon. The only reason that is big is that leaves Brandon still in last place. With what I'm deeming, let's go and just look forward to week 14. That leads us into what I am officially calling the championship match between bye week and team touchdown. Brandon is 3-10, Dan is 4-9. If you beat Brandon, you don't eat the chip. And Brandon is locked into eating the chip. If, however, Brandon beats Dan, then it comes down to, Dan, did you score more or less points than the Weasel? And the Weasel, did you beat Michael Cupp? If the Weasel beats Michael, he is safe. If Dan beats Brandon, he's safe. If Dan loses and the Weasel loses, it comes down to who has the lowest points scored, which right now is Dan. And face it, we're probably not going to make Paul eat a spicy chip. Maybe we can leverage it and get free Chick-fil-A sandwiches for life. I'll have a conversation with offline if that happens. But I believe it comes down to this Brandon and Dan matchup. Should be pretty exciting. What else is a big matchup? So right now, projection, Brandon to beat Dan 96-88, but anything can happen. Gone Fishing against the Dallas Jeff Boys, projection right now, me at 107, Matt at 103. Your pretty average team. is going up against Greg. Matchup right now, Jason's projected 102 to Greg's 96. The Weasel going against Michael Cup. Right now, the projection is 92 for Michael and 91 for the Weasel. Team Queen has to beat Carlos to stay alive. And Hannah, let's go over your scenario. You need Jason to lose. If Jason wins, you're out. If you win and Jason loses, right now he outscores you by 61 points for the season. So you need to have a monster game. Jason needs to put up peanuts and lose, and that is how you make the playoffs. So right now you're projected 113 to Carlos's 91. Uncle Touchdown plays Team Midnight Mike, a potential playoff preview. Right now Sean's projected to win 121 to 105. Where do things stand as far as the rankings go for seeding for the playoffs? Let me just pull it up real quick. Right now, again, Greg is in the 1 seed, but if he loses and I win or Sean wins, we would take, it would be Sean at that point most likely with the highest points scored. But if Sean loses and Greg loses, I'll be the 1 seed. If Greg wins, he locks in the 1 seed. If Sean wins, I lose, and Greg loses, Sean's the 1 seed. Right now, Greg's the 1 seed with a bye. Mike is the winner of the West Division, so he has clinched a bye week. Sean's the 3 seed, going against Jason is what it would be, and then I would be going against Matt if the playoffs ended today, which a lot is probably actually going to change. So before I talk too much about that, we'll just go ahead and say everybody check your lineups. There's a lot of key teams on bye weeks this week, which is really unfortunate for me. But anyways, 2 big matchups to watch. Hannah versus Carlos. 3 big matchups. Hannah versus Carlos. Jason versus, forget who you're playing now. And then the championship. Everyone watch the championship of Dan versus Brandon. This should be quite exciting. Brandon and Dan, whichever one of you ends up being the winner of being the loser, we need to set up a team, a league-wide live video, FaceTime, and so we can all watch you partake in that punishment. Anyway, I'm excited. It's been a very fun season. Thanks everyone for hanging in there. Playoffs are right around the corner. Have a great final week of the regular season. Peace.